Japan is a funny old place, isn't it? One minute you're surrounded by robots serving you noodles and buildings that tickle the clouds. The next you're looking at a 1,000-year-old temple where time seems to have stopped completely. It's this brilliant mix of the hypermodern and the deeply traditional that makes it so fascinating. And the thing that stitches it all together, the very lifeblood of the nation, is its railway system. The Japanese are properly, deeply in love with their trains. They are punctual, they are clean, and they go absolutely everywhere. They are the perfect way to see how this country is a magnificent layer cake of history and progress, all existing at once. So there I was, on the morning of April 24th, 2026, sitting in a small cafe in the heart of Tokyo. The city was doing its usual thing, a whirlwind of people, lights, and noise. I was sipping a rather excellent cup of tea and thinking about what to do with my day. I could go and look at another temple, or perhaps find a museum about something terribly specific like buttons. But then, a much better, slightly daft idea popped into my head. What if I just got on a train? And then another. And another after that? 5 trains to be precise, chosen at random, with no destination in mind. A sort of railway-based lucky dip. It felt like a properly adventurous thing to do. The plan was simple, mainly because there wasn't much of one. I would walk into the nearest massive station, point my finger at the departures board with my eyes closed, and see where fate and Japan Rail decided to take me. It was a journey with no map, a small pilgrimage into the unknown. This country was built on order and precision, so doing something so wonderfully chaotic felt a bit rebellious. It was a way to peel back the layers of the onion, to see if I could get from the shiny modern skin of the city to the ancient traditional heart that I knew must still be beating somewhere out there, far from the neon glow. And so, with my tea finished and my spirit of adventure suitably fired up, I paid the bill and headed for the station. The very idea of it was exciting. In a country where every second is accounted for, I was about to embark on a journey governed purely by chance. This wasn't just about travel, it was an experiment. I wanted to see the real Japan, not just the one on the tourist posters. I wanted to understand how the futuristic city gives way to the quiet countryside, and how the past and present managed to get on so well together. My 5-train adventure was about to begin, and I had a feeling it was going to be rather special. My journey began at Shinjuku Station, which isn't so much a station as it is a small city in its own right. It's a bewildering maze of platforms, signs, and a frankly astonishing number of people all moving with a sense of purpose I couldn't hope to match. After a moment of glorious confusion, I found the main departure board, closed my eyes, and let my finger land where it may. It pointed to a local train heading west, away from the core of Tokyo. The first step into the unknown was taken. This first train was a classic commuter machine, a sleek metal tube filled with people on their way to work or school. It was efficient, quiet, and spotlessly clean, a perfect example of modern Japan in motion. Looking out the window, I was surrounded by the Japan everyone knows. Skyscrapers pierced the sky like a futuristic forest of glass and steel. Giant digital billboards flashed advertisements for things I didn't understand. The sheer scale of it was mind-boggling. This was the Japan that rose from the ashes of the Second World War, a testament to incredible hard work and a relentless drive for innovation. The country reinvented itself, becoming an economic powerhouse, and this city was its roaring engine. Every building, every road, and every train line felt like a symbol of that post-war miracle, a declaration of strength and resilience. As the train hummed along, moving from the city center towards the suburbs, the view began to change, but only slightly. The colossal skyscrapers were replaced by slightly less colossal apartment blocks, packed together with incredible precision. Little shops and restaurants were tucked neatly underneath the elevated tracks. Life here was still fast-paced, but it felt more residential, more lived in. You could see glimpses of daily life, laundry hanging on balconies, children playing in tiny, immaculate parks. This was the machinery of the metropolis, the vast suburban expanse that houses the millions who power the city's core each day. It was still very much the modern world, just with a bit more breathing room. The passengers on this first train were a study in quiet concentration. Most were looking at their phones, some were reading books, and a few were sleeping, trusting the train to wake them at their stop. There was a shared, unspoken understanding of how to behave. No loud conversations, no eating smelly food. It's a collective politeness that makes traveling on even the most crowded train a surprisingly calm experience. After about 40 minutes, my first leg of the journey was over. I got off at a busy suburban station, ready to find my next ride. The city was still close, but I could feel it starting to loosen its grip. At my new station, I repeated the ritual. Eyes closed, finger on the board. This time it landed on a different sort of line. It was a private railway, not a main Japan rail one, and the train itself looked a bit older, a bit more charming. It was shorter, with only a few carriages, and it had a friendly, almost gentle look about it. The destination was a name I didn't recognize, somewhere further out. As I stepped aboard, I noticed the atmosphere was different. There were fewer business suits and more shopping bags. The pace had already dropped from a sprint to a brisk walk. This train felt less like a tool for commuting, and more like a service for the community it passed through. The view from the window of the second train confirmed my suspicions. The dense clusters of apartment buildings began to thin out, replaced by neat rows of detached houses. Each house had its own small garden, meticulously cared for, and a designated spot for the family car. We were now properly in the suburbs, the classic image of peaceful, organized Japanese life. I saw schools with children playing baseball in the grounds and local shopping streets with greengrocers and bakeries. It was a world away from the anonymous concrete of central Tokyo, a place where communities were clearly visible and life seemed to follow a comfortable, predictable rhythm. This train made more stops, and at each one the scenery became a little greener. The houses grew further apart, and in the spaces between them, I started to see small vegetable patches and rice paddies. It was a patchwork of suburbia and agriculture, the city gradually surrendering to the countryside. I could see farmers in wide-brimmed hats tending to their crops, a sight that felt ancient and timeless. We were traveling back in time, not by years, but by kilometers. The further we got from Tokyo, the more the landscape began to resemble the Japan of old prints and paintings. The air itself seemed to look clearer out here. The train rattled along at a much more leisurely pace. Its rhythm was soothing, a gentle clickety-clack on the rails that encouraged you to slow down and just watch the world go by. The other passengers seemed to be local people, chatting quietly with their neighbors. An elderly woman offered me a sweet smiling when I accepted it with a bow. It was a small, kind gesture that you wouldn't expect in the rush of the city. After another hour, the train reached its final stop. A small station in a town that felt like it was on the very edge of the countryside. 2 trains down, 3 to go. The adventure was getting properly interesting now. My third train was a real gem. It was a single carriage affair, painted in a cheerful cream and green. Honestly, it looked like something from a model railway set. This was a local line, a lifeline for the small communities dotted among the hills. I was one of only a handful of passengers. The driver, who also acted as the ticket collector, gave me a friendly nod as I boarded. The train set off with a cheerful toot of its horn, and we were immediately plunged into a world of green. The last remnants of the suburbs were gone, replaced by rolling hills covered in thick forest, and valleys filled with luminous green rice fields. It was absolutely beautiful. The landscape was now dominated by nature. We trundled over small iron bridges, crossing sparkling rivers, and ducked into short tunnels carved through the hillsides. I saw traditional farmhouses, known as, with their distinctive dark wood frames and heavy, sloping thatched or tiled roofs. These houses are designed to withstand earthquakes and heavy snow, and they blend into the landscape perfectly. They are a beautiful piece of Japanese engineering, built from natural materials and made to last for generations. Seeing them felt like I was looking at the very soul of rural Japan, a world built on a deep connection to the land and the changing of the seasons. My fourth train, which I caught after a short wait at another tiny unmanned station, was even more rustic. It was a diesel railcar, and it rumbled along a track that seemed to be clinging to the side of a mountain. The views were now properly spectacular. To one side, a steep forested slope rose up. On the other, the valley dropped away, revealing a panorama of fields, rivers, and distant mountains shrouded in mist. There were no more towns, just isolated hamlets of a few houses clustered together. This was deep country, a place where life is governed by the sun and the soil, not the train timetable. On this stretch of the journey, I was the only passenger for a while. The silence was only broken by the chugging of the engine and the birdsong outside. It was a profound sense of peace, a complete contrast to the overwhelming noise of Tokyo, where my day had begun. The railway here wasn't about economic might. It was about connection. It was the thread that kept these remote communities from being completely isolated, allowing children to get to school and the elderly to visit the doctor in the next valley. It showed a different side of Japan's love for trains, not just for speed and efficiency, but for community and care. As the train began its descent into another valley, I knew the end of the line, and my journey was near. The fifth and final train journey was the shortest of all, a mere 15-minute ride on yet another single-car train. It felt less like public transport and more like a private shuttle. The track ended abruptly at a simple wooden platform. There was no station building, just a sign with the village's name written in elegant Japanese characters. Stepping off the train, I was hit by an incredible sense of stillness. The air was clean and smelled of damp earth, wood smoke, and flowers. I had arrived. This was it. The end of the line, a small hidden village nestled in a mountain valley, a perfect slice of old Japan. The village was stunningly beautiful, like a scene from a Hayao Miyazaki film. It was built around a small, fast-flowing river. A gracefully arched wooden bridge crossed the water, leading to a cluster of traditional houses. These weren't just old, they were preserved with immense care. Their dark wooden walls and grey-tiled roofs seemed to have grown out of the landscape itself. Each house had a beautiful garden, not with lawns, but with moss, artfully placed rocks, and carefully pruned maple trees. There was no concrete in sight, only natural stone, wood, and earth. It was a masterclass in living in harmony with nature. What makes these Japanese villages so special is their sense of community and their connection to tradition. As I walked through the quiet lanes, I saw an elderly craftsman carefully repairing a paper screen. Further on, a group of women were washing vegetables in a communal stone basin fed by a mountain spring. Everything was done with a quiet purpose and a deep sense of respect. These villages are often guardians of ancient crafts, festivals, and folk traditions that have been lost in the cities. They are living museums, but not in a staged way. This is simply how life has been lived here for centuries, a continuous thread connecting the present to a very distant past. I spent the afternoon simply wandering, absorbing the peaceful atmosphere. The only sounds were the rushing river, the cicadas buzzing in the trees, and the distant chime of a temple bell. This village was the complete opposite of the Tokyo I had left that morning. It was slow, it was quiet, and it was deeply connected to its history and its environment. It represented the cultural bedrock of Japan, the foundation upon which all the modern skyscrapers were built. My random 5-train journey had, by pure chance, brought me to the very heart of what I was looking for. It was a place of profound beauty and tranquility. As I sat by the river, watching the sun begin to set behind the mountains, I had a bit of a think about the day's journey. It had been more than just a random trip. It had been a cross-section of Japan itself. Each train had been a chapter in a story, taking me progressively further from the modern, globalized world and deeper into the nation's traditional soul. The journey showed how Japan isn't just one thing or the other. It's not simply a futuristic society of robots, nor is it a land stuck in the time of the samurai. It is both, existing side by side, layered on top of each other like sedimentary rock. The journey from the frantic energy of Shinjuku to the serene calm of this hidden village mirrored the country's own history. You start with the post-war economic boom, the symbol of Japan's modern identity. Then you move through the orderly suburbs, the backbone of that modern society. Then, as the buildings give way to fields and forests, you travel back through the centuries to a time when life was agricultural and community-focused. The railway, Japan's great modernizer, was paradoxically the very thing that allowed me to find this pocket of the past, connecting all these different eras together in one seamless experience. This adventure taught me something important about Japan's culture. It's a culture of balance. There's a deep respect for the past, but it doesn't stop them from embracing the future with incredible enthusiasm. The quiet village and the noisy city are two sides of the same coin. The village provides the cultural roots, the sense of identity and tradition, while the city provides the dynamism and innovation. One cannot truly exist without the other. This balance is what makes Japan so resilient and so endlessly fascinating. They have mastered the art of holding on to what is important from their history while racing towards the future. In the end, my wonderfully daft idea had paid off. By giving up control and letting 5 random trains decide my fate, I had found something truly beautiful. It's a good lesson, I think. Sometimes the best destinations are the ones you never planned to visit. In a world that encourages us to plan every detail, there's a special kind of magic in embracing the unexpected. The beauty of Japan, and perhaps of life itself, isn't just found in the famous landmarks, but in the quiet, hidden corners you stumble upon by chance. My little village was a reminder that even in the most modern of countries, the past is never far away, waiting patiently at the end.